Welcome in, everyone. My name is Gracey with Northern Astrology, and I'm so glad to be here back on this Sunday, November 16th, earlier than I thought. I thought it was going to be a little bit later than when I started, but thank you to the Mercury retrograde gods for not allowing my technology to spiral too much. Just a little bit this morning, and I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Let's go ahead and go. I have my hair done. I've got my makeup done. What more do you need? I've got everything I need right here. I've got plenty of things to talk about today with the Chiefs heading to Denver, already in Denver. Let's be real. They're not just like taking off this morning and arriving and then heading back out tonight. They are already in Denver, Mile High City, acclimating to the altitude as well as not being number one in the AFC West. So there's a lot to talk about there today for sure. Also, we have a new moon coming up this week. So I'm super excited about that. More importantly, I'm just glad that I got a short but sweet break from being on camera and got to catch up with people that I normally don't get to talk to that often, including having an incredible astrology reading from Amanda Sophia. You might know her as Astro Healing Council or Sophia Nova on Twitter. But when I tell you that I have had so many astrology readings in my life, I mean it. Like, I have gone to so many different people. I have been to different like gene keys, human design, intuitives. I've been to people who don't know anything about astrology but are simply intuitive and are shamans of their own kind. And so it's just like when I say that I felt seen, heard, understood in this session, it was probably one of the most seen, understood, and heard sessions I've ever had, just because when you're with a 10th house person, it's just different. I'm a 10th house sun ruled by my 7th house Mars, both exalted. And it can be like, yeah, I've got a lot of energy, but I also have a lot of walls up and I also have a lot of boundaries that I've set over the years. Because back in the day, I used to just let anyone into my aura and just be like, yeah, we're all trying to do all these cool things, right? Let's work together. And so many times I got burnt, right? There's been so many amazing partnerships that I've had, and also so many times that I've just been burnt by people. And having somebody say, have stronger boundaries and put more walls up and vet people that are wanting to be around you, that like made my heart feel so happy. I'm like, okay, say less, because it has been hard as a professional before I walked into the astrology world, and as someone that has a marketing background as well as a media background. Of course I'm going to be front facing. Of course I'm going to be on camera. Of course I'm going to be on the spotlight, whether someone has deemed me worthy enough or not. It's like I didn't go to some elder tribe and be like, hello, you are the elder council. Please let me talk to you about whether or not I'm allowed to shine in the world of astrology. So I simply got permission from someone that was like, girl, there's no beef in my world. There's no negative talk about you in my world. There's no haters of you in my world. So that's how you can view it, is like start fresh, start anew. Because who has time to sit around and wonder about what everyone else is doing? Like, oh my gosh, it's so much. So I'm really grateful. I don't usually use whole sign, and Amanda uses whole sign. So all of my 6th house Capricorn stellium shifted into my 7th house. And I was like, oh, this is why we spent the first 45 minutes talking about others, because like, holy shit, do I have so much others in my chart. So if you are someone that is well versed in your astrology or someone that is brand new, I highly, highly, highly recommend getting a professional reading at some point when you are able to. Astrologers are not cheap, nor should they be. The things that we understand and the things that we consume and the things that we use to cleanse our channels and to purify our channels as well as protect our channels are very, very sacred. So the more that you understand that this is not something that like is just like $5 here and you can learn 10,000 things about yourself, I can get you started. There's free Astrology 101 guidebooks. There are Sapien Symbol workbooks, all found on my website. And that's why I'm like, hey, there's a time and a place for diving into getting readings with people, especially just like, use discernment. This last couple weeks, I've been working with a few people in the astrology community, and it's all been the same kind of storylines. People abusing their power in their station or their quote unquote influence in on social media or in actual social circles to ostracize those that, might not normally fit in, or to pit others against each other, or to use powerful manipulation tactics or even glamour magic or talisman magic or lunar magic on others in the community. And it's really disheartening to know that there's people out there that think that the only way to gain power is to summon it from outside sources. Like, true power exists within. You don't need to do all that. The best thing that you can do in this current energetic climate is protect your aura, protect your energy, and cleanse or cord cut anything that needs to be removed from your life. There's a lot of people that are not naturally as gifted as you are, and there are people that don't have the same gifts as you have. And that's why we're all unique and different. And so when some people see your magic, they see what you're capable of, they immediately think, oh, I can do this too. And they want to take that from you. But the whole thing is they can't. They can't take what's naturally you from you. They can imitate it. They can duplicate it. They can try to wield some sort of powerful weapon against you with it, but they won't succeed. No one can succeed doing what you do naturally anyway. So you have to keep going, ignore it. There's going to be people that come along and imitate. There's going to be people that come along and manipulate or think that they can. Like, I almost got by somebody in the community last year, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to let someone that I didn't care about before I met them dictate what I do after I've met them and have no interest in being around them, right? I'm just going to be like, bye. Thank you so much for including me. So now I know what I don't want out of a collaboration partnership and how I don't want to be talked to. And yeah, people who tell you who to talk to, how to tweet, how to talk to others, how to follow people. Like, I've unfollowed so many people just because I don't agree with viewpoints that are things that I don't really budge on. And also the way that others talk to people. I'm like, not here for people who are just like, you're wrong. This is why. It's lame. It's like, write your own think piece, make your own blog, make your own post. It's like when I even went viral, while of course I wasn't front facing or have any shows going on, but I went viral for talking about how Aries and Capricorn are the usual first people in a family line to break up whatever generational crap is going on and say no more, right? Aries, Capricorn, first to do things a lot of the times, yes, because Aries likes to impulsively jump into things like fixing their family's bloodline, me. And then it's like, wait, I don't need to fix anything. I simply need to learn the lessons that I am here to learn, integrate them, and be a shining example of what happens when you can slow down and actually see things. And my Capricorn stellium is right there with like, keep going. Sometimes it's the isolated goat energy, the sea goat energy that Capricorn brings along that also gives me a lot of energy that's like pattern breakers. Also, cardinal signs. Those are another reason that I chose those two signs. I almost said Scorpio just because the transmutation, but the eighth house is a lot more likely to go into their own dark webs and shadows and corners versus look at a collective and be like, I need to disrupt this. Capricorn and Aries are constantly disrupting collective spaces. So there's that. And then I had people like being like, well, what about Aquarius? And I'm like, what about them? And they're like, well, this doesn't track because I have all these placements. And one was like, I have first house Aquarius. I'm like, first house is Aries, 10th house is Capricorn. Like, it's not where I'm trying to like exclude signs and say you can't be the first if you don't have these placements. No, but people just want to fucking yap. And they want to fucking yap underneath my comments for some reason, or the things that I say for some reason, or even somebody was like, this is too general. Well, that's the whole fucking point, bro. It's astrology on social media. it's going to be general. You want a reading? You want me to go into depth and fine tooth pick the degrees? I will. But that's in a reading. Like, I'm doing this just as a quick statement, and it's like, the draining energy of people that need to correct, or people that need to like butt in and be like, well, actually, it's like, okay, I get it, universe. I was the well, actually person for so long, including like, I would see people be like, Gemini is one of the favorite places for the moon to be. And I'm like, actually, no, it's not. Moon in Gemini, why would that be a comfortable place? The moon in an air sign, yeah, the moon is in air naturally, but moon in air signs like Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini, no. But this person has 500,000 followers, so they're just gonna say things and whatever. And that's kind of like the whole point. I block shit that doesn't matter. I block the shit that doesn't like fit me, or whatever it is that I'm seeing. Like, sometimes people will say something like, fuck them kids, under like a post about doing something nice. And I'm like, why is this person so hateful? Block. No, thank you. Block button, mute button are your friends, especially during this Mercury retrograde. I mentioned when I jumped on air here that I was like, oh shit, I'm going to have some glitches. I'm going to have some little minor sound problems come up. And that's kind of to be expected, right? But when it comes to knowing that you are able to switch up at any sign or at any point and be like, okay, I am not going to get got by Mercury retrograde. I'm going to be right here, and I'm going to be focused on my goals and reviving old goals, recovering parts of yourself that you may have given out to others. You can do an energy return spell where you bring that back to yourself. Protection spells, all sorts of things can help during Mercury retrograde, especially going from Sagittarius to Scorpio. There are going to be some depths. And we've seen a lot of uncovering happening so far this last couple weeks. So I don't really need to go into all of that. I think the political spectrum is all theater. It's all to drain your energy and get you divided and pit each other, red versus blue, man versus woman, black versus white, whatever it is that we're looking at polarity wise. We're not really thinking about the coexisting part and the unifying part. And so that's what I believe Pluto and Aquarius will be largely grouping others together. And we're going to be finding our communities. We're going to be finding the people that are meant to be in our life, and hopefully building up those structures, because we all found out in the last 5 years how much community and like connection is important. So as Pluto is in Aquarius, that is the home of the 11th house. And that's why I'm talking about connection and network so much and reviving things. It's fun. All right. So we do have a football game today. I am going to talk about that. I promise. I have been kind of yapping about the current state of things. I haven't taught you guys in 2 weeks. It's been great for me. And being offline, my father had a heart procedure this last week on 11/11, and it was a AV node ablation. So he is getting stronger with each and every moment, and it's been hard. It's been really hard to juggle all of it. I am a mother. I am head of household where I'm running everything. I'm loving partner to the love of my life, and I hope I'm like one of those people that you look back and be like, man, she really did a lot, because I feel like I'm doing a lot every day. Raising children is no easy task. Raising preteens and teenager, that is no easy task. And yet it's so rewarding to be able to be present and be a part of their lives, that I know that each and every moment that I get to spend with them is just one little extra moment. I feel like I'm almost sneaking away, because they're older and they might not want to hang out with you as much. But luckily, we had family movie night last night, and that's not the case. So I'm still getting to enjoy their little selves for as long as I can. So yeah, chances are I am super busy with doing 500 things at once. People ask how I do it, and I'm like, don't ask me that. That's rude. You wouldn't ask a man how he runs a magazine and has a publishing house, writes books, raises children, does things around the home still, and has some sort of life of his own, right? But like, I'm a caretaker of so many, and that's okay that people are like, wait, how are you doing all this? So, yeah, just don't try to like understand the world that I live in. I have another person in my life my man that's just incredible and keeps me going each and every step of the way. So I'm very lucky to have that. And I was a single mom for a very long time. So this is definitely a welcomed and positive change. The other thing that, we can talk about is that Bills loss last time that we saw each other. I was yapping about how the Chiefs got this, how Josh Allen is going to look a little bit confused or a little bit stunned. And he did at certain times. He absolutely did. And I did get a lot of the numbers correct still and the signs to watch. So that was good to see. But the refs were absolutely a huge factor of last game. So without further ado, let's jump into the Kansas City Chiefs game today. Apparently, it doesn't want to load from where I had it last. So we're just going to do the live edits that I'm so known for, anyways. Like, let's do it. Number one live editor. Let's go. So the game solo today, let me make sure I have the rest of the games because that would be okay. So it's just like not wanting to load any of them because that makes sense. While you guys are looking at this Chiefs and Broncos chart, I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these games loaded just so we can like actually have them. And when, it's time to look at these things, I'm not just like, why is this chart not loading? Okay, I think I have them all covered now. So, game solo, we have that one. Chiefs is loaded. Opponent is loaded. Tri-roll is loaded. Yep, we got it all covered. Yay! Live editing during Mercury retrograde. So much fun. As for today, we are seeing a Mars rule chart, which is nothing new for any of you that have been tuning in. This year so far, we are definitely familiar with these Aries rising, Taurus risings charts. We do have an intercepted 6th and 12th house since I do use Placidus. If I were to use whole sign, that wouldn't be the case. But all of that 12th house energy, I believe, is going to be beneficial today just because it's going to give us a better game. When I feel like that Super Bowl that we had where it's just like stacked 12th house with Mars and it was Mars and Cancer, no less. That was a little bit chaotic for the Super Bowl. But now that we're back and we see this Mars rule chart, we've got Mars in Sagittarius, which indicates to me travel team is going to be dominant today. And then we also have that in the 8th house. So if you're going to do any bets today, it seems like with this Mars and Mercury conjunction, even though Mercury is retrograde in that 8th house, there's a lot of little bets that you can have happening today, like little things that will pop off, especially with any Scorpios, maybe. Let's just go ahead and say Scorpios are going to be big today. Big presence for Scorpio energy, whether that's moon, sun, rising, whatever. Like, I don't have everyone's chart. I wish I did. I wish I had every single athlete's chart so that way I could, form this huge collective astrology breakdown for each and every player. However, I have like 5 of their charts, I'm pretty sure. While I don't share Mahomes' birth time, I do share his public chart. So like technically that's like 6. Yeah, so I have 6 players' charts on the Kansas City Chiefs. That's crazy. Kelsey, Mahomes, Carson Steele, Rashee Rice, Clyde, Noah Gray. Yeah, 6. Okay, cool. Glad I can do live math still. Looking at that 8th house Mars, looking to any squares it might have, we're looking over to that north node in Pisces. That is the closest one that way, and the south node in Virgo. Opposite, we do not have Uranus and Gemini anymore. Uranus is back in Taurus at that anaretic degree, so definitely fun. Today, we have the moon in Libra, which I think indicates a lot. And I think that is a big score indicator. I am still working on my Chiefs moon sign process, and I'm getting all the data figured out that I collected all summer. So we're going to get to that. I think maybe in December. I needed a break from spreadsheets. Good Lord. I was like, if I have to look at another one of these things, I might freak out. The beauty of having this Mars ruled chart is that I think it's going to be a very physical game without a ton of injury. If there are injuries today, leg injuries are going to be quite loud, as well as calves and calf cramps. I think that with the part of fortune in that 12th house in Aquarius, and Aquarius rules the circulatory system and the calves, I do think that could be something. I don't see anything at 1 degree Leo, which is the dizzy and altitude sickness degree, where it's like a man like hanging upside down has blood rush to his head, and I'm like, well, yeah, he's hanging upside down. Like, what else would happen? But it is the dizziness and altitude degree, and that is in the 5th house. So if anything, they'll have to be creative with how they come up with combating any altitude problems. By they, I mean the Chiefs, because the Broncos are used to this. Going into that 1st house, we see Chiron retrograde at 23 degrees Aries in that 1st house. So this could be a mentally stuffed game, to put it mildly, having Chiron there trine Lilith loosely, that white moon Lilith, as well as Juno in Sagittarius. I don't really work with the asteroids as much outside of Vesta is one that we have been using, and Chiron is one that we're learning about. And so I think the head injuries with Chiron is in Aries, especially as Aries rules the head. It can be something that is revisited. I do think the NFL is learning a lot with this very long transit of Chiron and Aries, and it's one of the like longest signs that Chiron stays in. Or, you just have to kind of figure out like how this impacts each and every game. So I think with the 1st house, that will be the approach to things, and that will be kind of the energy of that first part of the game. And so the 2nd house is where I do find pacing. And pacing with Uranus in the 2nd house means it's going to be all over the place, especially at that anaretic degree. Could be very vocal, and there could be a lot of yelling about that pacing or whatever is happening back and forth. Seeing that the 3rd house and 4th house are empty, that is a not huge sign of anything, but Mercury does rule that 3rd house, and Mercury station retrograde. Things could be a little bit wonky with communication today, or things could be fried with the headphones. Headphones could be a problem, just like the calling back and forth to upstairs and all the line coaches. Who knows? The 4th house is ruled by the moon, which the moon is in Libra. So I do think this is going to be a fair game. Libra does like to bring the fairness to whatever area is going to be impacted. And since the moon is ruling the 4th house and the 5th house, that could be a little bit of an impact, right? Jupiter is also station retrograde. And this will be interesting to see how it impacts, especially Cancer placements, late Cancer placements. And in the 5th house, this could be a little bit of a slow start as far as creativity, as far as these are going to be plays called from the heart, and plays that are things that maybe have been worked on in silence. There could be some secret plays that come out today. This is what most would call a must-win game for Kansas City. If Kansas City wants to stay in the narrative and the conversation for the Super Bowl, they need to start winning all of their games. This last one against Buffalo was rough for a lot of people to watch and tune into. Both Buffalo and Kansas City was like, what in the hell is going on with this game? Definitely close. Definitely a game that was something that I was not expecting, although Buffalo does seem to show out every single time they play the Chiefs because it's their personal Super Bowl since they can't make it to one. Going into that Venus at the very tail end of the 7th house, we do see that at 12 degrees, which is a Pisces degree, and making a trine with the North Node and loosely with Jupiter. Yeah, we could say that. Venus being in Scorpio, though, is all about to the depths. Venus is also ruling over the 2nd house as well as the 7th house. So Vertex is also in Libra today, right on that descendant. So I do think that there are things that could be a little bit more fair, especially when it comes to referees. But last week, or not last week, the last game, Carl Cheffers was in, and we all know how he feels about the Chiefs. He hates them, so shouldn't have been too surprising with that one. With Jupiter retrograde in the fifth house, that is where I see the refs, right? And that being trine the sun today, as well as trine Saturn and Neptune in the north node. I do think this is going to be a little bit more feeling faded or feeling stuck in certain ways. I'm not sure if that's the home team or just the game in general. So this is going to be a tricky game. I did mention betting on Scorpios and betting on the Chiefs, the away team. There should be some fun prop bets in there if you are looking to gamble. I don't need to do the 1-800 bets off thing again. I don't think I did that once and I'm like, this feels weird telling people what to do. But then there's people that like go out of their way to be like, sports betting is evil. Astrologers that help people bet on sports are evil. And I'm like, okay, troll, chill. People have free will. They can bet on things. You could be betting on chicken, whether it's called chicken shit bingo. It's ridiculous. But it's like people will bet on things. It doesn't need to be a thing like you're enabling gambling. And I'm like, life enables gambling, okay? It's not me. But some people like to have problems with me, and that's the only way they can do it because they certainly can't talk shit about my work because it's always flawless. That's my little PSA. I might record that or like clip that later. Who knows? You can't talk shit about my work now, can ya? Which is so true. And I love that flex. It's like you certainly can't talk about whether or not I work hard, or you certainly can't talk shit about my work ethic, and you certainly can't talk about my moral code because it's strong. But if you have to talk shit on something, I get it. The ninth house is ruled by Jupiter, which is going to be also retrograde, which is like, oh, Moon in Libra, the fairness ruling over the fourth house. And then we see Jupiter retrograde in Cancer ruling over the ninth house, which is where I like to see the travel team. That is where I see the travel team show up in the chart. The 10th house is how I see the large public spectacle of it all. There is nothing in the 10th house today, but there is Vesta nicely in Capricorn conjunct the MC. So when I see Vesta conjunct the MC, in the ninth house, I kind of think that that's like some coziness. We've been here before. This is the stadium that Patrick debuted in. December 31st, 2017, when he took over the starting position. And unfortunately, that was the end of Alex Smith kind of being on the field ever again for the Chiefs outside of the playoffs that year. But yeah, very interesting to see how this will go. When Patrick debuted in Denver, the moon was in Gemini, and that was definitely a little Easter egg I put out on the internet. It's like, hey, if you want to know where Patrick's MC is, go find this tweet, and there you go. And then you can figure out the rest of his chart from there, kinda. The 10th house being empty, I think that means that whoever has placements here are going to light it up. Going into the 11th house, we have that 1 degree Pluto direct. So that's exciting. Pluto not being stationed retrograde has been great. Having Pallas Athena at that 11 degrees right there in the 11th house, very poignant. Whoever is more connected, whoever is more wise, whoever is more informed this game has that advantage. And then we go into the 12th house, which starts at 22 degrees Aquarius in 1 minute. And if you guys know the Chiefs chart, you know that the Chiefs have that 22 degree Saturn. So that'll be right there in the 12th house today, which kind of gives them a little bit more fortitude when it comes to rivalries and competition, is what I am starting to understand about Saturn being in that 12th house natally. And then having transit Saturn also there is kind of nice too. A lot of responsibility and a lot of airing of the grievances, so to speak. Having so many placements or planets or whatever in the death degrees of Pisces, starting at 25 degrees to 30 degrees, those to me are the death degrees of Pisces, having Saturn there and Neptune there. I believe it's clearing out a lot of shit, for lack of a better word. A lot of stuff that's been creating stagnancy and creating blockages and creating problems for the person processing it all. And this so happens to be, if we're looking at it in this setting, the NFL. The NFL also has the same sun as Patrick Mahomes. So their sun is currently opposite the Saturn and Neptune conjunction, and I feel like a lot of things are being fixed, revealed, or maybe shifted in the NFL. So there's the game solo. Let's go ahead and look at the Chiefs chart since they're the away team. We'll look at them first, then we'll look at the home team, which is the Denver Broncos. Okay? I know what game it is. I have the right charts this time. We are thriving, okay? If you guys saw my last stream, you know that I had to like live figure out what the charts were and like what they were doing and what was happening just because your girl did not pay attention. And it was kind of funny to watch at first, but then I was like, wait a second. Did I really get so excited that we had a 29-degree Pisces rising and then totally miss the fact that like that's not even the right chart? Oh my God. Cringe moment for me for sure. Looking into this chart, first impressions that Jupiter and Aries right there in the first house. I do think the Chiefs make a big boom first impression. Then we have Taurus, Venus in that first house as well. And that Jupiter and Venus are both sandwiching that Chiron retrograde in Aries in that first house. So I do think that the Chiefs have a little bit of a push at the beginning. Now, we do have the fun parts of Mercury retrograde natally for the Chiefs to begin with. So that can be kind of fun, especially since it's conjunct their moon and that moon is exalted. Then they have their sun at 0 degrees Gemini. So we can see that the pace of the game, I believe, is going to be largely impacted by the Chiefs. Rachel Pye says I mess something like that every retrograde. Yeah, everything that like if you can mess something up during Mercury retrograde, you will. And if you have a strong mercurial chart, like my moon is ruled by Mercury and my moon rules my chart, and my Mercury's in Pisces, so it's naturally retrograde to begin with. Like, let's be real, having Mercury in Pisces is like having Mercury double retrograded. If that doesn't even make sense, because that would cancel each other out. So just extra retrogrady, because that's definitely a word. Going into that third house, nothing for the Chiefs. Going to the fourth house, we do have that north node in Cancer, loosely by 4 degrees, conjunct Jupiter retrograde. So if anything, I think they're going to have a boost against the home team. I do think that Jupiter retrograde reevaluates blind spots. We have to go back and look at the groundwork and go back and look at the blueprint, go back and get everything figured out and laid out before we manifest things or before we, take action on things. Jupiter is a great indicator for success as well as these big lessons that come in. For example, I have Jupiter in my first house and it crossed over my ascendant and I was like, money isn't real. Everything is free. Spend. And then, October, November hit and I'm like, wow, can I have all those dollars back, please? That would be great. And it was kind of funny because I'm like, I haven't had this happen since like 2013. And that was a Jupiter cycle ago. It's almost like I could learn from these things. But the beauty of all of this is knowing that, hey, we have these blind spots. We also know what they're going to be about. So wherever Jupiter is in your chart right now, whatever house that is, whatever aspects it's making, you can kind of gear up for these big events. And it's like, you don't know what's happening. You don't know when it's happening, but you know that if you do things with faith and with blind faith, especially, it'll all work out. You just gotta trust the universe. And boy, is that hard to tell somebody with a 6th house stellium, Virgo stellium, as well as, that being in Capricorn, 6th house stellium. It's like, it'll all work out. You just want me to not do anything. And my Pisces energy is like, yeah, just flow. And my Virgo energy is like, absolutely not. You will organize and find everything that you need to do before you make any move ever. And you will count all your chickens before they hatch. Don't listen to anybody. Don't count your eggs before they hatch. Chicken. I am not going to do this to myself. I'm not going to get got by a phrase that I don't even use that much. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. I think that's what it is. I'm going to do it anyways. Fuck it. With Jupiter conjunct my Vesta and now it's Jupiter retrograde. I'm like, all right. I'm going to feel the abundance. I'm going to welcome the abundance. One of the best affirmations, this has nothing to do with the Chiefs, but nothing to do with the Chiefs, but you guys can listen to it anyways. One of the best affirmations for Jupiter, aspecting personal, close planets of yours or placements. Show me how easy it can be. Show me how easy it can be. Because sometimes with all the Capricorn in my chart, it's like everything has to be a battle. Everything has to be hard and difficult. And it's like, no, that's not the case. Going into that fifth house more, we do see Pallas Athena for the Chiefs, but really everything is jam packed in that intercepted sixth house, meaning the Chiefs are going to have a very physical game today if they're not already exhausted. Just being at that altitude, they're going to be very much battling the physical. Virgo is completely intercepted today, so Mahomes, please don't be completely intercepted today. Kelsey, with your rising and also Mercury on your rising in Virgo, please don't be intercepted constantly today. Please don't be stuck today. But Virgo energy could also use this as a powerful sandwich type energy physically. And, that means it could be protected. You can look at this as stuck in between the two signs, or you can look at it as padded, protected, and secured. So, all about how you look at it. And I choose to look at it as the protected type because I'm tired of seeing the South Node get our precious baby angel Mahomes. Going into that seventh house, look, I'm not trying to pretend that I'm not biased, right? I love the Chiefs. 90% of the time, I feel like I pick the Chiefs. When I don't pick the Chiefs, it's for a reason. Like, we have other things to do. So this game is going to be the backups going in second quarter. That's when I'm like, no, we're not trying to win here. We're just trying to get through this game. That's not the case this year. We are trying to win every game, so I don't think Gardner Minshew will be in this one at all. The Neptune and Venus conjunction for today's game in the seventh house for the Chiefs, I think, will be something that they can use to their advantage. They can go to the depths, expose what they need to, and keep the rest. That eighth house, the eighth house pile up, in that Scorpio and Sagittarius range, just like Mercury retrograde is kind of combined there from the earlier degrees of Sagittarius to the later degrees of Scorpio. I believe it stations at 20 degrees Scorpio and stations direct. So if you have placements around then, it's a party until then, right? Yes, it is a party. All right, so this is going into the eighth house. Nothing really there for the Chiefs outside of Lilith. Of course, not that Lilith is nothing. I'm not going to make that biblical mistake of saying Lilith is nothing. Lilith is a very powerful character. However, having an exact Lilith return for the Chiefs is only going to make them more powerful, right? So I just see this more as a sign of their dominance. Even though Lilith is retrograde natally for the Chiefs, Lilith is direct exactly on their Lilith. So things could be pretty solid here. Going into the ninth house, we do see that ninth house ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter retrograde conjunct their north node. I think this is going to be a positive sign for them as well. Going to that 10th house south node. Chiefs are comfortable here. They're used to being under pressure. They're used to being in the spotlight. They're used to being under pressure in the spotlight. It's kind of the beauty of 10th housers. And then that to me just indicates that they're going to be familiar with this type of game. It's a game that they need to win. Divisional rival, especially one that's kind of winning the division, needs to be taken down. That 11th house, Pluto, I almost said Jupiter. I was like, Pluto, there we go. Live shows, Mercury retrograde. I have a speech impediment naturally, so we're winning every day that doesn't flare up, right? I can say my R's, S's, L's, T's, C's with no problem. Thank you very much. That Pluto does come into effect just because it is at that Aries degree of 1. I do think that will be a number to watch for today. So I'm just going to go ahead and write it down while we're here. Like I said, that Saturn at 22 degrees for the Chiefs, 22 degrees, 59 minutes. It still being at that 22 is important. So I'll leave it at that. Chiron conjunct the North Node by 2 degrees. It is getting closer and closer. So I think Harrison Butker is going to be a huge part of this today for sure. So is Rasheed Rice, and we'll get to that in a minute. Let's go ahead and look at the opponent's chart over here. So we're looking at the Broncos chart. Go ahead and take a look at that for a minute while I blow my nose. At least I mute myself so you don't have to listen to anything. I'm like, I hope the audio is of great quality. I work hard on that. I do have an air filter going on and my refrigerator, my little mini fridge over behind me. So I'm grateful that my mic is only picking up my voice. And if not, let me know. I'll fix it. This chart is going to be a fun one just because I kind of like that this is close enough to where the Chiefs and the Broncos have a lot in common. So we're going to see a jam-packed tri-wheel chart. But the Broncos have their moon on the MC today, so I think they're going to get hella emotional. Vesta is also conjunct their Saturn retrograde. They're at 0 degrees. So I think it's going to be very emotional. I think it's going to light a fire under the Broncos' asses for sure. Vesta is great with that purifying flame energy. Having their south node right on the ascendant and their north node right on the descendant. This is definitely a spicy one. I think having the south node on the ascendant means they also understand this game. They also are here to be prepared and ready to go. It's not like the Broncos just have missed out on the rivalry over the years. It's been very clear that the Chiefs have dominated this side of the rivalry since Mahomes kind of came into play. So, with that being said, we're going to be looking at quite a jam-packed game. Action-wise, we're going to have a lot of the explosiveness, the physicality, the anger is not going anywhere. It's just very much rebranding. Chiron retrograde in that first house for Denver doesn't really attach to anything. They do have Pallas Athena directly across from Chiron, so their knowledge and their information and the way that they communicate that could be a little bit fried right now, which is kind of cool. But Chiron's opposite the moon today for everyone, and the further the day goes on, the more that we'll feel that. We've had a lot of energy with oppositions to Chiron, whether it's been Mars, whether it's been the Venus one that we just had, that was definitely a big opposition. We've had a lot of that energy and it's felt uncomfortable. There's a lot of healing that has to go on mentally still as a collective, and that's what Chiron and Aries is all about, is revisiting those mentalities and mindsets. I'm drinking a lot more water and I'm like pausing a little bit more, and I'm not even smoking weed. So I just want to throw that out there. I don't know if you guys have noticed this season, I'm not really smoking on camera like I used to. That's because I want to make sure that I can market this to as many people as possible. If I want to smoke, I'll smoke. But like, honestly, a lot of that was from having to deal with other people most of the time. I would just start smoking weed because I'm like, oh my God, more talking. So yeah, I'm kind of in my own little bubble. I get to like do my routine on the Sundays now, and I kind of just like chill and I smoke afterwards, which I still have my little sativa pen here. Shout out Go Block. But I'm also mainstreaming the way that I consume cannabis lately. So it is an experience. It is an ever evolving one. So you too should evaluate your experience with cannabis while Saturn is back in the death degrees of Pisces. The beauty of today's game is I think we're going to see a lot of fun football, right? Not only do the Broncos have their Sun and Mercury and Uranus and Leo, they also happen to have that all in the fifth house today, which I think is one of the more fun houses to have synastry with a game chart, just because it usually means that we, the audience, are entertained. That 11th house, the network and people in the television audience, the 10th house to me is the big public audience watching the game and the big spectacle of it all in the stadium. But I think that's going to be a really heartfelt performance. This will be in more I'd like to say faster pace, with that Uranus in Taurus in the second house, even though that is an anaretic degree, I think it should be an electric type of performance happening this game. Also, Mars Venus conjunction in the sixth house for the Broncos conjunct that south node. That to me feels like why they're having so many injury problems. The closer that gets to the 15 and making that an exact conjunction, the worse for the Broncos. So very soon here. I do think they had a great push. They had a great run. The Broncos showed up strong. That is one benefit of having the South Node crossing over some of your placements. It was close to their Vesta. It was like on their Vesta. It was also, on their North Node not that long ago. So they had a nodal reversal not that long ago, which can be a really impactful time for anyone, let alone a sports team. Going into that sixth house, I do think that there could be some physical missteps today. We'll look at that more with the tri-wheel because I think that'll tell us more about what injuries and what things are happening. And that's when we'll also look at the numbers to watch for. And then we'll go into the fun charts. I have so many Chiefs players' exact birth times that it would be a disservice not to share them all with you. And I didn't do all of them the last game. And I'm like, that doesn't need to happen again. I need you guys to have as much information and be as highly and totally informed as possible with these games so you can make all your predictions too. Because if you are watching this and you haven't jumped in the chat, please do. It helps me whether you're watching it on Twitter, whether you're watching it on YouTube. Jump in the chat, make observations, share whatever you have to say. I am not someone that'll bite your head off for sharing an opinion. Do I appreciate when people come in here and try to tell me what to say? Absolutely not. I will always listen and share respectful comments, of course, and share insights that you guys have because that's how we all learn and grow together. I had someone reach out on Twitter this week, and Empress Atlantis has been sharing a lot of my sports astrology work. So grateful because not only does that help me reach more people, but that helps me connect with all the people that have interest in this. And someone was like, thank you so much for doing this. And I have my own sports opinions and I'd like to share them. And I'm like, do it. Please share more. Hi from Seattle. Hey, Sarah, how are you? So excited that this is not only just a Kansas City person show. I will stop insulting every opponent, I promise, at one point. But we can all hate the Broncos a little, even if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan. Having that whole Drew Lock, Russell Wilson thing going on, that would have been perfect time to make fun of Seattle and the Broncos for having that whole combustion going on with their trade. I was just like, what in the world is going on there? But it's just nice to know that people watch this from all over the place. And I even had some people internationally watching the show and they'll come back and watch and comment later. So very fun. Going into that seventh house for the Broncos, we're going to see what I think is going to be what they're working towards. We're going to see hints of what they want to do with their future of their team. And we're going to see glimpses of that. Venus with Neptune not completely exact, about 8 degrees away. Not sure how much is really going to be transmuted for the Broncos today. The Chiefs, I do feel like, are going to be pulling the veil off of what's actually happening as their opponent goes on. So I think the second half above the horizon is where I see the second half. And the horizon is that ascendant-descendant line. So that one that goes straight across where the arrow is 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock position. That's where the line runs through. And so above the horizon is where we see all the big people with public and maybe big legacies. People like that have all their planets above the horizon and very little below. So there's fun facts for you all if you're looking at charts brand new. I have no idea where everyone is on the astrology learning spectrum. Some people are just walking in. Some people have been doing this so much longer than me. There are so many brilliant astrologers. I look up to all of the elders in the community where I'm like, can you teach me things? Some of them suck. Some of them are horrible people. Okay. I've dealt with a couple of them. Some of them hate you for being young and new. And I'm like, okay, no thanks. But there are so many wonderful people that you can learn astrology from. And I continue to learn from. One astrologer that has unfortunately passed away too early for her time. Erin Sullivan has written so many amazing books that are full of depth. They're not just like, this star does this planet does this. If you have this will happen to you. It's like the nuance and the magic of astrology is really captured in her work. So, highly recommend checking her books out. Going back to the game chart, I think maybe I just have an aversion to talking about the Broncos. Who knows? They do have their Jupiter conjunct today's sun. So maybe that is a little bit of a push on their end. You know, we're going to get into the numbers to watch for when I get into the tri-wheel. Hi, Radhika from India. Retrograde Jupiter will give a problem. Abso-freaking-lutely. Having their Jupiter at 23 degrees Scorpio, trining retrograde Jupiter today could give a little bit of a core vitality energetic problem, right? You know, their Jupiter being at 23 degrees Scorpio conjunct the sun. Whenever the sun comes into the equation, you have to remember the saying, flying too close to the sun. People say that when they've bitten off more than they can chew, when they've done too much and they have now hit an overload problem. They have too much of something. You know, the sun does give a huge, some people think it's malefic. I still think as benefic, but you can look at it however you want. I'm like, thinking of the sun as malefic is thinking of yourself as malefic, but I get it. Some people with like maybe an 8th house sun are like, I don't like it here. And they don't feel like their energy gives off a lot. And right here, we have an 8th house sun with Jupiter for the Broncos, but that Jupiter being trine Jupiter retrograde, as well as the sun being trine Jupiter retrograde. So that is forming a pretty strong trine today, and that'll be interesting to see for the Broncos. But I do think there's going to be individual standouts on the Broncos. I just don't think collectively that they're going to be able to ace this one. Having their Saturn and Moon conjunction in the 9th house, which represents the travel team to me, is one of the bigger indicators. If they had a packed 4th house where they're like, we've got, even if they had their sun in the 4th house, I think that would be a huge, huge indicator that the Broncos are going to be able to win today. Since they have their Moon and Saturn natally conjunct, it's not like a new thing for them. They've experienced this energy for a long time. I do think that's why the Broncos are so serious and so intense. Like, you look at John Elway, very not fun person. Peyton Manning, way more fun, but like Elway, not so much. And it's been like this kind of like, we've got to do this. And like, without Elway, they kind of had a moment there. They had Jake Plummer and, oh my God, Jay Cutler and all these horrible fucking quarterbacks, right? For so long. And so for the Broncos to see Mahomes just destroying them year after year, the Broncos have had a good time in the AFC West lead spot, right? They're happy to be there. But I'm not sure that this Moon and Saturn conjunct the MC of today's game is going to play out for them. You know, if it was a Moon in Taurus conjunct the MC in Taurus, that'd be different. But that MC in Capricorn, and that at the 2 degree of Capricorn, that is a power degree. I actually just tweeted about this degree. Fun fact, if you follow me on Twitter, it's at North Astrology. A lot of people don't fuck with Twitter, and I get it. There's a lot of stigma there. There's a lot of negative connotation. I believe that you bring whatever energy lives inside of you to whatever social media you experience. And there's people that are afraid of people calling them names. There's people that are afraid of expressing themselves because of the negative feedback they could possibly get. And that will hinder your experience on any social media. If you are on social media but not wanting to be seen, you're doing it wrong. There's if you're doing social media where you just want to observe, and sit back and watch, that's 100% how you can do things. Sit back and just chill. If you're wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard, wanting to be a voice or a force, so to speak, in the astrological community, you gotta get comfortable with negative feedback. And luckily, I was raised by a Scorpio Mars and an Aries Mars, and I've learned about negative feedback my whole life. So, not too worried about that one. I've also gone and gotten in fights so many different ways back in my former media personality days. If you guys don't know a lot about me, I also have a new video out on YouTube that does an interview that talks about how I got into sports astrology. It's called Interview with the Witch, and I have been named Gracey the Witch. I didn't name myself that. I don't give myself titles outside of, I'm a badass motherfucker. That's all you need to know. No, I am simply a person that loves the stars and happens to have a lot to say about everything else. And I just bring that energy to the astrology community, and I will yab about anything, anywhere, anytime with anyone. It is a proven fact. It is a flaw as well as a blessing. Seeing that the 10th house is empty for the Denver Broncos, as well as the 11th house, we are going to jump into that 12th house starting at 22 degrees Aquarius. And we do see White Moon Lilith and Chiron conjunct the part of fortune for today's game. So there is some hope for the Broncos, absolutely, but it's going to have to be a spiritual hope. They're literally going to have to pull themselves out of a spiritual clump of something to get ahead and to rise above the drudgingness of that 12th house. We've got the North Node, Saturn, and Neptune all in Pisces there, as well as Ceres conjunct the ascendant for today's game at that power degree of 2. And I talked about 2 degrees being a power degree because it is a Taurus degree. This is where people have power struggles. This is where people have power complexes. This is where people can develop Napoleon complexes. Absolutely. The 2 degree is something that also indicates world leaders as well as world significance. I believe there's a couple things that I'm coming out with that will be famous people, the people that are part of these degrees, people that have placements at these degrees, and more examples. So stay tuned. I'm doing a lot in the next coming calendar year. So calendar year starts January 1st, 2026. The astrological new year starts March 20th, 2026. So you have so much time. That's what I want to tell everyone is you have so much time. Broncos might not have time today, but you have time. Let's go ahead and jump into the tri-wheel, shall we? Yay, tri-wheel for today's game. This is where we're going to start looking at the numbers to watch, okay? And I'm going to actually make them legible so you guys can follow along too. So far for the numbers to watch, we have 1, we have 4, we have 7 and 10. Those are very, very tied to astrology. The 1 is tied to Pluto at that 1 degree station direct. The 4 is tied to the ascendant at that 4 degrees Aries, as well as the descendant at 4 degrees Aries. The 7 is tied to Harrison Butker. So because we mentioned that the Pisces Chiron, they're getting at the North Node for the Chiefs, is getting closer and closer. I think we have more pressure on the feet and the kicking squad. So that's going to be kicking with Mars in Sagittarius with that leg ruled energy with Mars there. So I do think it's going to be a little bit of a boost. I think Butker is like very much Cancerian man. So he's got the somewhat of a boost from Jupiter as much as he does some lessons from Jupiter. So I'm here for that. Please roast Seattle. You crack me up. I just saw that, Sarah. I love roasting Seattle, but it's only because I want to go there and I want to like take my son to see his favorite team, which is unfortunately the Seattle Seahawks. And I want to enjoy it more. And like every time I hear updates from Seattle, I'm like, come on, do better. I want it to be a little bit more fun. But we want to go to the fish market. Definitely want to go and check out the stadium because I heard it's beautiful. I haven't been to Seattle since an 8-hour layover when I was going from Kansas City to Alaska. And I spent 8 hours there, and it was a sunny, beautiful day, and it was perfect. So I can't really talk shit on Seattle that much. The rising degree is always a significant number. And I know that the kickoffs kind of vary, but since this is the exact time of kickoff that's supposed to be happening, this is the chart that is quote unquote cast at that time. So definitely think that's going to be big today. Let's go ahead and go on that inner ring. The 17 is loud today with that moon at 17 degrees. I think that kicks in a little bit more for the points, more than numbers usually, but I've already put down 7 and 10, so we might as well throw 17 in there too. I also like to do quick math. I'm not great at it, but sometimes I will try to do it. So if you guys bear with me here, I'm going to do some more quick math. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and I see 1, 4, 7, 10, 17, and then I'm going to do 17 times 3, and that's going to be, or not 17 times 3, 17 plus 17, and that's going to be 34. See, I'm already telling you guys, math is not my strong suit. Real time math, I still write down numbers like I am in third grade. It's fine. So 34. I want to say that we're going to have a little bit more push here. Maybe go with 27 before the 34. A lot of sevens today. A lot of sevens. Let's go into, and the vertex today is also 1. So I mentioned Pluto, but that's also trine the vertex at 1 degree Libra there in the 6th house. Let's see what we can do for the Mercury and the Sun aspect. So I mentioned 1, 4, 7, 10, 17, 27, 34. Let's get to the 50s and 60s because, I can't. 40 would be great. Like we could do a 44 here. I'm doing a lot of the repeat numbers. Interesting. And I really don't think about this too much ahead of time. I'm just writing down numbers and scanning what I think. And that way you guys can see my process too. Okay, we've got 83 came up. Let's see what else. That's going to be the 29, 29, 25 mashup. Let's do 54 as well. Okay, so I'm going to write these out in legible order so you guys can see them on my handy dandy notepad. Damn. So we've got a crazy mixture of numbers here today, mostly 4s and 7s, it feels like. 1, 4, 7, 10, 17, 27, 34, 44, 54, and 83. Not sure why this is all coming out as 4s and 7s, but I'm here for this. Let's see what signs to watch for. Let's go ahead and go with Aries, number 1, with that Aries rising. Let's go ahead and go with Gemini. Leo. Libra's been getting a lot of love lately. Like Libra's really been like, okay, I think this is working for you guys. And Scorpio, we talked about that. Leo, Scorpio, and Libra. I might, no, I'm going to leave Libra in there. I just feel like I've been picking Leo, Libra, and Scorpio all year. I'm also going to go with Capricorn. Let's do that final one of Capricorn. Because if I pick more than 6, I feel like I'm just trolling at that point. I'm like, half the zodiac will be relevant today. The other half will not. Like, that's not how it works at all. But I do have the numbers written down here and the signs written down so poorly. I'm so sorry for I was writing on a cloud. That's if I was writing on this cloud thing, which I don't need to write on. I could probably just write on the huge desk that I'm sitting at. But those are the numbers for today. I do think the Chiefs are going to be winning by 8 points. I want to say 17 points, right? I want to say the Chiefs win by 17 points. The moon's at 17 degrees Libra, but I'm going to say the Chiefs win by 8 points today. That's combining the 1 and the 7 together. 1 plus 7 equals 8. That's some math I can do on the fly. There you go. So very interesting. I'm very excited to see how this is going to go. Also, I guess my charts didn't load for the quarterbacks or the fun chart, so I'm going to go ahead and load those too while we speak. I literally just did this, but whatever. We'll go ahead and look at Patrick's chart, and then I'll pull up the charts for the other guys so you guys can go ahead and look at that. While I'm loading all these, my God, like everything else worked just fine. Why can't this? Why can't you? Hopefully, you guys are enjoying the abundance of charts that I have, though, because that's something that I really, really, really am grateful for, that I have so many of the actual birth times for these players. So, this is the only astrology show that has more than one photo or birth time of the players. Like everyone has Travis Kelsey's now, and that's fine because his birth chart was gotten by Victor, the anonymous celebrity collector. And I'm not anonymous, and I talk to these guys myself usually, and I'm like, "Yo, give me your birth time," and they're like, "Okay." Works out really well, but it's because of my rapport and also my ability to respect their boundaries and everything. So here we are looking at Patrick's chart. This is his public chart. Yes, I have his actual birth time. No, I do not have permission to share it yet, so I will continue to hoard it like a lunatic and allude to it. I think that's the right word, alluding to it. As you can see, he's got his South Node and White Moon Lilith right there, conjunct Chiron in that first house. So if anything today and every day that, Chiron stays in the last degrees of Aries, he is feeling the Chiron on his South Node. If anything, Chiron on your South Node makes you stronger, more capable, and really removes the mental blockages through detrimental lessons, but it still removes them. So it's like, yeah, you go through all this shit, but you get to learn so much from it. Yay. Then we get to go into the second house where we don't have any placements for Mr. Patrick, but we also don't have really anything until the third house. His moon is not in the fourth house, I'll tell you that. But it is in the second house, and is not in the fourth house. It is in the third house. So that can give you a little more of a hint. But his moon being in the third house, I do think he has to be a strong communicator, a strong leader, and a strong presence in today's win for the Chiefs. We're speaking this into fruition for the Chiefs. Going into that fifth house, he doesn't have anything there, but there is Jupiter retrograde, so it's kind of nice not to have anything right there in the mix of it all. He's good. He does have his Pallas, Athena, Vesta, Sun, Chiron, and Venus all in that sixth house that is intercepted, starting at 22 degrees Leo. So that sixth house is ruled by the sun, which is in Scorpio, which kind of can be petty and jab per jab energy. So definitely going to see how that physicality plays out as his sun is intercepted in that sixth house. Going into the seventh house, we do see his Mercury visiting the moon, or the moon visiting his Mercury, and his North Node, as well as his Mars. So hopefully he's been taking care of himself with that Ceres on the descendant, and I believe he has been, as I happen to live with someone who works with the people who help take care of Patrick. So yes, he's been taking care of himself. There are also indications here that Mars and Venus, that is a marriage of the highest alchemy. When you look at synastry charts, having Mars and Venus conjunct usually indicates a very strong romantic and passionate type of relationship, as well as a longevity kind of thing. Mars and Venus having that alchemical marriage in the sky is very much like the end of Aries and the beginning of Taurus. That's what I call the bridge from Mars to Venus. And it can kind of give that energy of like, okay, this divine type of alignment. So I think having Mars conjunct Venus for Mahomes is going to be a strong help and assistance that he much needs. His Pluto today is going to be conjunct the sun by about 4 degrees, as well as his Jupiter being visited by Mars exactly today. And so that is once again in Sagittarius. So traveling is not going to be a problem for Mahomes. He also has Juno at 22 degrees Sagittarius, which does indicate global, well-known energy. Having anything at 22 degrees Sagittarius is known as the foreigner degree and foreign culture degree. So if you have 22 degrees Sagittarius in your chart, chances are you either marry a foreigner, You get along with foreign cultures really well. You could be a possible ambassador. You could be very, very attached to a different culture that you were brought up with. It's all about outside cultures and things that are foreign to you, and that being a huge impact on your chart and where that shows up. And very interesting to see his Juno there as he's married somebody from his hometown. But I kind of see that with his Venus and Chiron conjunct too. So it's like, okay. And that's going to be conjunct today, the vertex of today's game. So that'll be interesting to see. His 22-degree Neptune and 10th house, and then his Uranus in the 11th house. I do think that just kind of shows up as him being radically himself and that pissing off a lot of people because, hello, it's Denver we're playing in, not Kansas City. His Saturn today will be in the 12th house, conjunct Saturn by about 4 degrees. Both are retrograde. His natal Saturn is retrograde, as well as today's Saturn retrograde, conjunct Neptune retrograde. And, you know, his Saturn is right in between transit Saturn and transit North Node in Pisces. So he is definitely feeling the pressure of what's your destiny, what's your impact, what's your legacy, as well as your public image. You know, anytime Saturn shows up, it's definitely lessons in the 10th house and how you handle things publicly. So interesting to see for today, for sure. Let's go ahead and look at Mr. Bo Nix's chart. Mr. Nix has his sun today in the 12th house, as well as Mercury retrograde in Pisces. It's like doubly retrograded, like we mentioned before, which doesn't make any sense, but just go with it. Just go with it. It's fun. It's a good term. We like it here. Just go with my weird sayings. So that's the first thing that sticks out, you know, his sun and Mercury retrograde being in the 12th house. He does have a few things to overcome today. His Mars right on the ascendant. This man is going to start strong. He's going to give a burst of energy. Having Mars in Aries is that quick, short burst. The longevity of Mars in Aries does play into your mental strength. So if you have a great mental foundation, Mars in Aries is going to be something that can help you. If you have a shaky mental foundation and you're not exactly as strong as you might have been like a couple years ago mentally, there's things and ways that you can protect yourself. There's ways that you can meditate. Meditation would be really strong with Mars and Aries, as well as Mars in Aries loosely conjunct Chiron. It hasn't been fun, I think, for Bo Nix. He's gone through a lot, especially with his anger. Having his Jupiter and Saturn also in the first house, I do think he shows up well. He's disciplined. He shows up strong. Nothing in the third or second house or third house or fourth house for Mr. Nix. He does have his North Node in the fifth house of today's game, so that could be indicator that he is Mr. Creative as well. Has to be heartfelt creativity, though. Nothing in the sixth house or seventh house, as this is a noon chart for Bo Nix. And then we have his moon possibly in the eighth house, but since it is a noon chart, we don't exactly know. It could be 6 degrees ahead or 6 degrees later, which would make it, you know, possibly in the seventh house. But either way, his moon is in Scorpio, and that is something that indicates fierce competition, absolute fierce competition, as well as the pettiness factor. You know, the sun and the moon meeting up. We're going to have a new moon in Scorpio in 4 days from now. So that'll be like at 12 a.m. on the 20th, or 12:46 a.m. if you want to be specific. 12:46 a.m. and 30 seconds will be the exact time. I have it, the moon chart pulled up, so that's why I know this. Then we have his Pluto and Chiron in the ninth house. So that is weakness and transformation through the travel team or through the away team, as well as his Vesta conjunct the MC. So he might get flambéed publicly, or he might be doing the flambeing. We'll see. Going into that 11th house, we do see his Juno, South Node, Neptune, Venus, and Uranus all there stacked. I mean, this kid is going to come out stronger than anyone else after having Pluto conjunct his South Node, Neptune, Venus, and then Uranus. Like, holy next 20 years, Batman. You know, I do feel for the people that have heavy Uranus or heavy Aquarius placements. I almost said heavy Uranus placements, but isn't that interesting? Freudian slip up. For me, it's interesting for me. I'm not sure if you guys found that interesting, but I do think it's very telling that this man is going to be transformative in the NFL for years to come. Definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with. And then we go into that 12th house and we see his sun and Mercury retrograde. I do think he's going to have a little bit tougher of a game today, so we'll see how that plays out. Let's see where we should go next. How about Rashee Rice? Okay, so we've got Rashee Rice here, and he happens to be number 4. I don't have the Broncos roster pulled up at all, so you guys can, you know, fill in the gaps for the numbers that way, or we can just all watch the game together and figure it out then. Yay. So Rashee Rice has his Mercury, Venus, part of fortune, and sun all in the first half of today's game. I do think he's going to be a very impactful player today, as well as I believe him to be a big factor for the pace of the game with all of his second house placements, his Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars on that second house. Yeah, loosely conjunct Uranus. I can say loosely this time because it's over 10 degrees. And then we go into the 3rd and 4th house where there's not anything for Rashee Rice visible. You never know. There's thousands and billions of stars. I don't know why I said thousands and billions. Very big difference. But, you know, billions of stars out there, and they all are part of this screenshot of the sky that we take when we do astrology charts. So who knows? But empty in my calculations today. His north node is conjunct Jupiter there in the 5th house. So he should be pretty big for creative plays today. His ascendant is conjunct the south node, and that will be in his 1st house for now until it transits back into his 12th house after it crosses 10 degrees Virgo. So that should be interesting. His Ceres is loosely conjunct the vertex, and then we don't have anything in the 7th house or 8th house until we get to the 9th house, which is also the travel team. And that's where the Pluto and Chiron retrograde conjunction shows up for Rashee Rice, as well as his moon and white moon Lilith conjunction in the 9th house. And that is going to be loudly on display today. You know, this is going to be something that we see him developing and bringing into the fold, you know, as he matures as a receiver. You know, I think his legs are very much highlighted with that 19 degrees of Sagittarius, as we talked about Sagittarius ruling over the legs earlier in the broadcast. So if you're just now tuning in, now you know. Then we go into the 10th house where we see that Lilith in Capricorn. I think that's just going to be on display. Maybe he has a girlfriend there today, or maybe there's a woman there that shows up for him today loudly on public display. Then we have Vesta in the south node conjunct in Capricorn in the 11th house, as well as his Neptune, Vertex, Juno, and Uranus. So Rashee Rice is part of the Aquarian generation of the early 2000s. The year 2000 was a very big year for Aquarius energy, and he also will be going through quite the transit with Pluto being conjunct his south node, and has been for quite some time. Then we have going into the 12th house, nothing for Rashee Rice, so I think that could be a little bit of a sign that there's not going to be any hiccups or obstacles for him subconsciously today, which will be great. Then who else do you want to see? You guys want to see Travis Kelce? Perfect. I have it too. Thank you to Victor for making this birth chart public. Now we have the ability to tap into Kelsey's magic as well. We see his Pallas Athena conjunct the rising of today's game, which I feel like makes him a fierce warrior. Then we have going into, Chiron and Aries is going to be there. Obviously, it's in the 1st house for the game. Travis doesn't really have anything there, but he does have some energy opposite of that with his Sun, Mars, and Juno conjunct the moon, but opposite Chiron today. Going to the 2nd house of today's game, there's Uranus there, but nothing for Mr. Kelce. Then the 3rd house is where his white moon Lilith conjunct his MC is. I also happen to have white moon Lilith conjunct my MC, but my MC is in Pisces, and so is my white moon. So very interesting to see. I do think that that means you're usually known for kind of like your worldly adventures and maybe even possible lovers of sorts. My significant other is a world famous wrestler, and content creator, so I kind of have that too. Not so much as Taylor Swift global level, but it definitely will get there. I have faith in my man to continue tackling everything in his way, especially the public eye. Like, he's got this. He's been killing it on YouTube. So yeah, I think having White Moon Lilith conjunct the MC usually means that you have an also significant other that is very much in the spotlight. Then going to the fourth house, we see his Ceres, Jupiter, Chiron, and part of fortune all right there in the fourth house. So I feel like he's going to feel at home in Denver Stadium, whether Denver appreciates him feeling at home in their stadium or not, who knows? But this is definitely going to be something that we'll see being more of a trend with Kelsey, is him getting, kind of the upper edge on people because he's familiar. He's been in the league for 13 seasons. He's been to all the stadiums. So he definitely knows what it's like to be a fish out of water and be the away team in a rivalry matchup like this. So definitely comfortable for him. Going into that fifth house, we don't see anything huge here, so I'm not sure how big creatively he will be for today's game, but I do think he is a strong presence, especially with that sixth house with his south node, ascendant, and Mercury all there. And it's separating away from the south node, his ascendant and Mercury. So I think he's only getting better with the south node, leaving him the hell alone. Then we'll be going into both him and Taylor Swift's nodal returns when the nodes shift into Aquarius. So that'll be fun to watch. Going into that seventh house for Mr. Kelsey, we see his Sun and Mars conjunction, or you could call it a Mars Cazimi. Anything that's in the heart of the sun. It helps when it's like exact. So if it was like 12 degree and 12 degree Mars, I'd feel a little bit better calling it a Mars Cazimi, but it's close enough for a lot of people. Juno is also there, conjunct the moon today, so maybe there's some sort of significant partnership. Maybe specifically his mom is there today, just because the moon and Juno usually indicates more of like a mom energy than it would be like a lover of some sort. But with his Pluto conjunct today's Venus, I definitely think that there's going to be some fun energy here where he can show out against his opponents and maybe transform himself in the spotlight a little bit on his 13th season with his Pluto at 13 degrees. Then we see his Venus is conjunct the sun today, so that is forming a tiny little Cazimi itself, which is fun. That can mean that he can light it up on stage, maybe since the love of his life is not going to be at the game today and she'll be watching from afar. That's where his little nod to his lover will be. Also, his Sagittarius moon right there conjunct today's Juno as well as today's Mars. I think he has a very strong chance to show out. So Rasheed Rice and Kelsey, these Sagittarius moons, are going to be absolutely boosted by that. And I believe Kareem Hunt is also a Sagittarius moon, so that'll be one to watch for. 29, I forgot to put in today's game, but I think I might change that 27 to a 29. Yep. There's one less 7, okay? So we'll go back over this. But yeah, let's see here. I think his also Uranus conjunct the MC of today's game. Very poignant, as well as being visited by Vesta, then having his Saturn, Vesta, and Neptune all in the 10th house definitely shows responsibility, leadership, legacy, and visibility. So we'll see how that goes. Going into the 11th house where Pluto and Pallas Athena are for today's game, there's nothing there for Travis, but then his north node is conjunct the part of fortune. Very exciting. His vertex is at 8 degrees Pisces where my Mercury is, and that's exciting, but it's not conjunct anything for today's game. It is, however, not loosely, I'm not going to say loosely with this one because it's only 4 degrees. It is trine Venus as well as Kelsey's Jupiter, and that's over, with his Chiron as well. But that vertex being trine his Jupiter as well as his Venus and Pluto, I kind of think that's a beautiful grand water trine to have, just because it gives you more energy to be creative and more energy to truly flow and adapt to outside energy. And hello, greetings and salutations to you, Dycliffe. We will see what other chart. Noah Gray? Perfect. I'm glad you guys want to see that. I think I have Carson Steele and Clyde Edwards-Helaire on here too. So Noah Gray, definitely also physical with that Mercury and Jupiter conjunction in Aries in that first house, and then his Saturn and Sun conjunction in the first house as well. He should probably be being a strong blocking force today. A lot of people are talking shit on Noah Gray because they're like, I thought he was supposed to be taking over for Travis. And I'm like, Travis isn't gone yet. So maybe just calm down. Um, he's a very physical player. And he has a lot of obvious fortitude. You know, his Mars in Scorpio, and that being opposite his Saturn. You know, he's got a lot of longevity. He's got a lot of stamina. His fifth house today, or the fifth house for today's game, and his North Node, Vertex, and Vesta on that fifth house. We could see some creativity from him very clearly as well. That's why I wrote down 83 today as numbers to watch for. And then we also see in the third house his Venus as well as Ceres and part of Fortune on that third house. So communication and vocalization is going to be big for him, as well as his moon conjunct Venus. I love these moon Venus gates. They're part of the Venus star pattern. So when the moon and Venus link up, they're known as gates in the rise and the ascent of Ayanana as the evening star or morning star, or Venus as the morning star or evening star. Um, so Venus gates are really important. They're big dates that we can all kind of like track. If you're into the synodic cycle of Venus, I have a workbook for free on my website. If you're looking for one, it's the Rose of Venus journal, and it covers 2012 through 2020. I'll be releasing the 2020 through 2028 one soon. Then we have for Noah Gray, his Chiron, Juno, and Pluto all in Sagittarius, all retrograde, conjunct Mercury retrograde, as well as Mars today. So I think that he will get just a little bit of sluggish energy at first, but he's going to be overall dominant and solid today. And I think that his ascendant being on the MC only makes that even a stronger case. Going into, let's do Carson Steele next. Carson Steele, this is basically his game. His rising is conjunct the rising. He's going to understand this game like his own energy. He's got his moon exalted in the first house. He's got his north node in the second house of pacing, his Saturn retrograde in Gemini in the third house. So maybe he helps visit things. Maybe he helps, you know, he's a fullback. He could be out there blocking for everybody and really like just putting his best foot forward today, as his Saturn will be squaring Saturn, or it is squaring Saturn in the 12th house, and Saturn in Pisces. Pisces rules the feet. The North Node as well as Neptune are both there. So foot problems can definitely be something where he comes in because somebody has a foot problem. Who knows? His Mars conjunct the vertex of today's game does indicate that he could be a little bit of a physical presence, which would be cool to see. The moon conjunct his Mercury as well as his Juno, part of Fortune, and Sun, all beautiful signs for him, as well as his Venus return. His Venus is at 13 degrees, stationed retrograde in Scorpio, and today's Venus is 12 degrees, stationed direct in Scorpio. So very interesting to see how his Venus return plays out here, as well as his South Node conjunct Mars. That will be an interesting turnout, as well as his Pluto conjunct Juno. And then his MC is also today's MC, and will be conjunct Vesta of today's game. And his Chiron is also on display, so he could have a big moment and he could easily flub it or screw it up somehow, or, you know, it's just something where he maybe fortifies his position on the Chiefs because of that. Because Chiron doesn't always mean wound or lessen or great damages. It can also mean that he heals part of himself by being visible this game and maybe solidifies his place on the team this game. I think he solidified his place on the team, but you know what I'm saying. The Neptune and Pallas Athena both being in the 11th house, and his Pallas return, I do think that he's a little bit more mental, cerebral, focused, and possibly even helpful and insightful this game. Who knows? We'll see how it all plays out. We also have the one and only Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And if you followed this man in college, you would absolutely understand why I'm so geeked out about this chart. His whole chart is at 22 degrees rising, 22 degree descendant, 22 degree IC, and 22 degree MC. And his number all throughout college, and then when he was with us, was 22. Very cool. love when astrology does that. And also, Clyde, thank you for telling me to keep going with my astrological work. It has only continued to perpetuate me further into the spotlight. I have been learning so much since getting your birth time, and I really appreciate your kind words that you shared with me. In case you're watching this, Clyde, we appreciate you greatly. And also another Pisces Mercury King. I'm very here for all the Pisces Mercury energy on the Chiefs with seeing his Mercury at 24 degrees, which is also a Pisces ruled degree, and then having it conjunct Saturn and Neptune. So I do think this is like a rewarding time for him. I do think that he's learning and getting upgrades and fitting into the right ecosystem during this time. So his moon being conjunct today's vertex, as well as his vertex being, or his moon being conjunct today's part of fortune, as well as his vertex being conjunct the part of fortune. I also think that number 26, Clyde Edwards Hilaire, has a great day today. So if you're watching at home, I said 17 and 1, 4, 7, 10, 17, 29, 34, 44, 54, and 83. I want to throw in plus a 26 in there because it could be for the other team too that I'm calling out. I don't freaking know because I don't pay attention to the other team's numbers. But I also love his Sun and Jupiter conjunction in that first house. So he's definitely, if he does play today and get some reps, he will be blessed. So that's exciting stuff. All of this is exciting stuff. I'm excited to be able to talk about the Chiefs with you all each and every week. It's like I didn't really realize that my sports media career was ever going to turn into something where I'm talking about the stars. I'm talking about the stars with random people from all over the world that have found me through random ways. And good Lord, am I so grateful for this. You know, I have only been encouraged to keep going more lately. The confidence I have is from my own sheer convictions and what I do, the people that I am so grateful, so grateful to read for, the clients that I have, the friendships that have come out of client relationships. It's just so much to be grateful for. And now we have this new moon chart to look at for the upcoming new moon. This will be on Thursday. So if you guys want to learn about the new moon, I happen to have written a book called The Astrology of 2025 with 3 other amazing authors that happen to specialize in so many different things that there's a whole book that you can learn about all the things they specialize in. The first thing I wanted to talk about, though, was this new moon being at 28 degrees Scorpio. I may or may not have talked about this degree earlier this week when I saw a picture of a giant woman reaching down and looking at a tiny little fairy circle. And this is fitting, mostly because 28 degrees Scorpio is the king of the fairies approaching his domain. I love this degree. I also love the following degree, which is 29 degrees Scorpio, an Indian woman pleading to the chief for the lives of her children. This is like the ultimate defender of children degree, the 29 degrees Scorpio. So I want to take a minute and just reflect on the sapien symbols and how important they are with these lunations, right? I have been working with the sapien symbols for 6 years now. I have been focusing solely on the sapien symbols for 3 years now, where I mean solely because like when I do my readings and stuff, I will dive into the sapien symbols because they're so important in reading someone's chart. And it can be a little bit like, what the hell? So I include an Astro Gold report as well as a detailed sapien symbol report for the whole approach to your astrology chart, because it's not just Saturn is in 6th house and that's what this means here. And that's what the Astro Gold report will do. It'll give you the basics. It'll share all the things that you need to know about your chart. And then I get to cover the fun stuff. The fun stuff like the degrees, the magic within. So 28 degrees Scorpio, the king of the fairies approaching his domain. 29 degrees Scorpio, an Indian woman pleading to the chief for the lives of her children. And then 30 degrees Scorpio, children in Halloween costumes indulging in various pranks. This new moon will be bringing out defenders of children. It will be bringing out the people that are in power that have been abusing their power, probably against children or innocent communities. Because when you see children represented in astrology, we think about the third house, Gemini, the twins and children, childhood, as well as the fourth house with family, all that. And then the fifth house, which is literal giving birth to children and childlike joy with the fifth house in Leo. So Gemini, Cancer, and Leo is the area of your chart if you're looking at children, right? Or if you're looking to find things with children. However, when you're talking about the protection of children, like and also these symbols were written in 1925. So an Indian woman pleading to the chief for the lives of her children probably sounds incredibly politically incorrect, and I'm sorry if that was offensive for you all. It's simply what's written here and how the symbols were written. So Native American would be the proper term. So a Native American woman pleading to the chief for the lives of her children. That way you can kind of see it as like, yes, it's this really scary degree. It's this really scary thing of having to plead for the lives of her children. But it's also this mama bear and like very drastic, very anoretic type of degree. I wrote this about the new moon coming up. Speaking of spooky season, this new moon in the depths of Scorpio takes us out of the final degrees of Scorpio season with a roller coaster of emotions. The ethereal king of the fairies to the tormented woman pleading to the carefree children in Halloween costumes. This is a loaded new moon of blessings, breaking curses, and paving new jovial unexpected situations. Paving new jovial beginnings. Use your diplomatic prowess to face any pain or unexpected situations that arise. Facing trauma of the past or the pain of the anoretic degree of Scorpio can be released through root chakra healing work. Once you free your hips and move your energy around, you'll feel lighthearted and at play again. There's a whole ritual by the amazing Alessia from Life Through Spirit that talks about how to open up your hips, do it in a place where you can feel safe. Hip work is going to be huge with this new moon, as well as releasing your inhibitions. I know, feel the rain on your skin. It's a very cliche term, but by releasing parts of yourself that you feel shame around, parts of yourself that you feel aren't serving you anymore, parts of you that you haven't really owned up to. If you have placements around this new moon, which shout out to, I forgot to give a birthday shout out because I didn't know if I could, because it was one of my friends' birthdays, and sometimes people are like, yeah, share my birthday, it's no big deal. Other people are like, don't tell anyone when I was born. But special shout out to my 29-degree Mercury friend Celeste, who watches each and every one of these streams, because you get a whole ass new moon on your Mercury for spooky season, Scorpio season, your season. So I hope it's an amazing one. That moon, sun, and Mercury conjunction all at 28 degrees Scorpio. I'm like, where can I think I can move myself over a little bit, and that way you guys can see the chart better. There we go. Look at that. This is in Kansas City, Kansas, geographic center of the geographic center of the United States. Is technically McPherson, Kansas, but I went ahead and put Kansas City, Kansas, so you guys can have what I will be experiencing this new moon. Part of fortune on the ascendant. Love this. This is also on my anniversary, which I'm very much looking forward to. I'm also getting laser hair removal that day, so I'm also looking forward to that. Very beautiful, synchronicities of all sorts, but I think this is really fun to see as the South Node part of fortune conjunction on the ascendant for the new moon. Yes, it is at 12:46 a.m. I add the 30 seconds in there, or else the minutes don't line up on AstroGold. Look, I want it to be exact for you guys, so I try any trick of the trade to make sure that I get the exact chart. So not only are we going to have the moon, new moon, sun, and Mercury conjunction and Mercury retrograde, we're also going to have Uranus retrograde in Taurus opposite this new moon. There will be revelations. There will be exposure. There will be people pleading for their livelihoods with this new moon. Will it be the way that we think? Who knows? with all this Epstein and Trump shit going on. Deepak Chopra's in it for some reason. All these people that were associated with Oprah in the 90s and early 2000s, not looking good for you, fam. Dr. Phil, one of the most insensitive bastards you'll ever meet. He claims to be from Texas, but he went to Shawnee Mission North, which is here in Kansas City. Not sure where that awful fucking accent came from. Dr. Oz being a total shill. Like, so many people that were affiliated with Oprah might have shitty past and shady past, to put it mildly. And all that's getting exposed soon. Like, if you want to know when things are really going to hit the fan, wait till the North Node gets at 8 degrees Pisces. 8 degrees Pisces is the whistleblower degree in the Sabian symbols. It is represented by a girl blowing a bugle. It is like having the 8th trumpet. Okay, I know that there's 7 trumpets of Revelations, but 8 degrees Pisces is the 8th trumpet. Okay, so if we're looking towards the future, if we're looking towards things that way, we're going to be seeing a lot of people being revealed. Like, I got made fun of by these infamous astrologers for saying things like Neptune and Pisces in the last degrees of Pisces are going to be clearing the debris and taking out the trash. I mean it. There are a lot of people, including in the spiritual community, that have been abusing power, manipulating others, and being overall clowns, right? It's not great. It doesn't look good for all of us who work with ethics and have strong moral codes of work. You know, I mentioned before that like I have a standard. Like one of my examples of having standards is I don't work with people who have abandoned their children or who have like given up on their children. I work with people who have great relationships with their children, developing relationships with their children, strong relationships with their children. Like if you can't take care of the people that you brought into this earth, then I don't want to work with you, right? Like it's just plain and simple. Those are my rules. People are going to start developing stronger ethics, right? With Neptune and Saturn both going in to that 0 point of Aries, February 2026, we're going to see a huge shift. And that's at the end of this year. The true new year does not start until Aries season 2026 starts back up. So until then, we're going to be in the death degrees of Pisces with all these planets in the death degrees of Pisces. So very much a lot coming up. It's not to be alarming. This is simply to remind you that while we have the ability to rewrite our past and while we have the ability to own up to our actions of the past, we have to do it. And a lot of it is from our past behaviors. For example, a lot of my past behavior was working outside of the home. I was constantly gone. I was constantly traveling. I was constantly not here. I wasn't present when I was here. I would be working in my home office. I had my children, you know, in daycare, as well as having help on the weekends to make sure that if I was gone or out of town, that someone would be here. And now I get to be fully present more than ever, right? And I think it's because of my having to work outside the home as a single mom and having to be out and about and making a name for myself that I'm like, how could you ever leave your kids and abandon them, right? How could you ever not want to spend time with them? Because that's all I wanted to do when I was gone. And when you look at parts of yourself that you don't like, I don't know, deep-seated rage with this new moon in Scorpio, we are at the very tail end of those scorpionic degrees, but they can be beautiful. They are truly transformational. This is trine. This energy will be trine the very last part of the year. So this is trine the 29 degree of Pisces, which is the last degree before you get to the 0 degree of Aries. So it's like that renewal point. And so we have all this energy, and this new moon is going to be trine all of that end of year energy. We can still make new beginnings. You can still put new projects into the world. Anyone telling you that you wasted your time and it's too late to launch something, you can launch anything, anytime, any place. During a retrograde, around a retrograde, during eclipse season. People who are afraid of eclipses, I get it. I was born during a solar eclipse, so I'm not really too, afraid of them. Do I get affected by them? Absolutely. No one is safe. You're always going to have parts of yourself that you might not like revealed to you, especially in Scorpio new moons. But this is a new start. This is a new start. Let me drink some water and really say that with my chest. This is a new start, and you all will have this start. Thursday, new moon. It's a great new moon as it's ruled by Mars, and Mars is going to be right over there at 11 degrees Sagittarius. This new moon has so many contributing factors. It is trine Saturn and Neptune in the North Node versus squaring, which is always nice. Excuse me. It's nice to have this energy because it's also, good Lord, it also happens to be, across from Uranus retrograde. Traveling right now in the United States is a mess. Between the government shutdowns and the lack of competent individuals in certain positions in the FAA or the flight regulations or piloting or stewardessing or attending, whatever you want to call it, traveling's a mess. And knowing that it's also Mercury retrograde while we're having this new moon, exact Mercury retrograde, just please, please, please plan ahead, prepare for delays, don't expect to get places right away. Including traffic. Like, as you can tell, this new moon is going to be in the third house here in Kansas City of this chart. And it's like very short distance travel. Don't be expecting too much. Then now is not the time to travel across the country to meet your long lost internet possible love. I would wait until Jupiter is in Leo and Mercury is well clear of this post shadow. So maybe like January, February, that can still be a pretty volatile time. We'll see. But like, I recommend everyone live their life as needed to. You can meet the love of your life during Mercury retrograde because it is people from the past coming back up. It could also mean past lives, right? Like I said in a tweet this week, I was like, as much as Mercury retrograde is bringing up people from the past, I only have like two people I want to hear from. One of them, I didn't know his real name for like years of our friendship until one day he told me, and I'm like, ew, I'm going to call you Thunderdome. Bye. And then one of them is one of my close friends from my teenage years that has a world famous family, and I understand the reason why she might not be available to yap with me all the time like we used to. But those are people I want to hear from. Like, so maybe with Mercury retrograde, put your intentions back into the world. Be like, this is who I want to hear from. These are people I do miss. Instead of constantly focusing on, what ex is going to contact me. I already said it. Not a damn soul in this universe that I have had access to that I wish to have access to continually. I'm good. Leave me alone. If I wanted to talk to you, I would be, right? But like sometimes I have these like moments where I'm like, oh yeah, I did kind of just delete all my social media, disappear from the public spotlight here in Kansas City, change my phone number I've had for decades, and then just kind of fade away. So maybe not everyone is going to be on that path, but maybe it's like, oh yeah, I guess I have kind of put up some boundaries in the last few years. So if you need to change your phone number, if you need to disappear from social media for a while, whatever it is you need to do, take your breaks when needed. The world was never meant to be this informed. The world was never meant to be this connected. So everything that we do here and everything that we continue doing here is just an added bonus. So if you can keep up with the world and you are in journalism and you want to be fast paced everything, do it. If you want to be living in the woods off grid, do it. If you want to be a happy mix of vacationing in the woods off grid, but still being connected to all your media and devices, do it. There's no wrong way to live your life. There is only the way that is completely wrong, which is harming others or harming yourself. Don't do it. Focus on the way that you can move forward. Focus on the new path forward. New moons are the darkest part of the month. It's when we have this dark new clarity. If you work with Hecate at all, Hecate, however you want to pronounce her name, our editor with the Northern magazine, Mariah, does an incredible job with working with guided meditations with the goddesses, and has a book, The Guidebook to the Goddess, that you might want to check out around this new moon. So, with all of that being said, I'm looking forward to today's game. Let's go over the numbers again one more time as we're on the way out. I think I've only showed you my book today. I also have a workbook today. Well, not today, it's every day. The Sabian symbols, working with the Sabian symbols. So if you're looking for more information about what they are, how to incorporate your own with the Sabian symbols, you can. I highly recommend working with Linda Hill's book, The 360 Degrees of Wisdom, which I have over here. Trying to get all of my books. I have so many. 360 Degrees of Wisdom. This is my Bible of all things astrology. I recently had a reading where I just took a bunch of notes in it. So that's how you know. Shout out to Amanda. Amanda, you know I love you when I write my favorite book with the things that you tell me. It's incredible. Like, I just have so many notes from that session. So once again, if you're looking for someone to book with outside of yours truly, because I don't have the availability that some people do. Amanda just recently quit her job and is going full-time as an astrologer. So I'm going to put the link to get in contact with her in the YouTube comments. So if you're watching this, support other astrologers and support the community of people around you that are incredible, ethical, and brilliant human beings. And that's what I want to do each and every day with my astrology practice, as well as my network of astrologers that I work with. So if you all are enjoying yourself, if you all are having fun, great. We're going to go over the numbers to watch for and signs to watch for today's game. I guess I could put it back up on the screen while we're going over this. So numbers to watch for today are 1, 4, 7, 10, 17, 29, 34, 44, 54, 83, and then 26 is in there at the end, because you know how I roll. Nothing is ever in order. Signs to watch for: Aries, Gemini, Leo, Libra, Scorpio, and Capricorn. So very excited for today's game. Very excited to see how it goes. And more importantly, I love watching football and I love talking to you all about the cosmos. So if I get to combine these things together and make it into my weekly offering for the astrology world, so grateful to be able to do that. So grateful that my YouTube is continuing to grow. If you all have friends that like sports and astrology, I would love for you to share my channel with them. I try not to talk too much shit. I try not to be my 1-2 punch self that I can be. I do have Mars on my descendant, and it's exactly opposite my rising. So I can come off as like this very all-encompassing wall of energy, and it's wall of exalted Mars energy ruling my exalted sun. So I get it. It can kind of feel like sometimes that there's not room for everyone else to exist, but there is. There's so much room for everyone to exist and do all this. I happen to be really tuned in with the Chiefs, so I cover the Chiefs every week. If you're looking for people that do more of a spectrum of shows, that will not be me. I love covering the Chiefs, and that's all I really want to cover. I will, however, cover other sporting events, and I will chime in on other things. I randomly talk about UFC stuff all the time. I am always a huge fan of looking at one-on-one sports of any sort. So even boxing is fun for me to break down. Do I have the most knowledge in MMA and boxing? No, I grew up watching boxing, so I'm a huge fan of it. I am an Aries, so hell yeah, I love fighting. But football has always been where my heart is. I grew up in a rugby household, so maybe rugby down the road I will take a look into. But, until I'm getting paid all the money that it takes to pour myself into an accurate game prediction, I will be mostly featuring the things that I absolutely love, like the Kansas City Chiefs. It brings me joy. I don't bet on them. You are more than welcome to, but those are the numbers to watch for and the signs to watch for. So without further ado, I'm so grateful to be able to spend, I think, the last 2 hours with you guys. It's felt like it's just flown by. So thank you so much for everyone that's tuned in. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Yay, go Chiefs. The Chiefs are winning by 8. I forgot to mention that part too. Bye.